I'm Becca. I'm Joshua's mom.
And I'm John Stead.
And we also have Christopher, a 6-year-old, Joshua's big brother, and Lucas, who you might hear in the background, and he's Joshua's little brother. We found out shortly after our marriage that John has a genetic predisposition called Li-Fraumeni syndrome, and what this gene did is it predisposed you to certain types of cancer. And we knew going into having children that we had about a 50% chance of John passing that gene on. We found Joshua's cancer on his first set of scans. The first day that we found out Joshua had cancer, we had already gone through several scans with Christopher, and every time up until then, it had been very routine. I knew this day was different because instead of that tech being there, it was a very important looking woman and a very important, well-dressed man. It wasn't a tech in scrubs. It wasn't a nurse in scrubs. So it was then that they took me back to this tiny little isolated room, and they had that look in their eye that, like, I'm about to tell this mom that her life has changed. His diagnosis was rhabdomyosarcoma, and he had it in his vastus lateralis, which is a muscle growing in the side of the leg. They were hopeful that it was isolated to one muscle, that they were able to find negative margins, that they could just remove one muscle. They were so confident with the way the scans looked that it was cancer that they didn't think it was even worth it to do any kind of biopsy beforehand.
So after the surgery, they went straight into, within a week, they had the port placed, and then they went into, he had chemotherapy for
6 months.
6 months, yeah.
After the 6 months, he was cleared for no evidence of disease. With a soft tissue sarcoma like that, they were able to clear him, and then he has gotten ultrasounds every 3 months since then, and as of February this month, he'll be 2 years of remission. Both boys will have MRIs every year for the rest of their life because of the genetic variant. So because Joshua has already had
Because he's already had cancer once, there's a higher chance that he'll get it back, so that it'll come back again.
So we heard about Rock Solid actually after our Ready bag was sent to our home, and Joshua got to open it up. And when we opened up the Ready bag, the most surprising thing for me that Joshua liked the most was the blanket. He grabbed the blanket and he hugged it, and that was his most favorite thing. He loved the blanket, and he laid with that blanket on his bed for, the longest time, the little gray blanket, because it was so soft. And I was just amazed that you guys thought of everything. We got our place set back a few months ago once we moved to our new home.
It was cool because the Rock Solid got a group of a motorcycle group that had come out, so which our kids loved that. So of course, I think it was 8 in the morning. It was early in the morning. It was like 8 in the morning, I think, that our kids were up and in underwear on the front porch as the motorcycle. There's I think maybe 30 of them at least that came down, and our kids are out there freaking out and jumping them down because all these motorcycles are all coming down the driveway, so they're all yipping and super happy and super excited, which was really awesome. The group gave them a chance when they started to build it. They gave them a chance to the kids to go out and participate in some of these. So the bikers are holding them up while the kids are drilling and all the things that basically they couldn't tell exactly what it was. They just helped them with the assembly, and then they put the kids away, hid them, and they did all the assembly, did all the the pit and everything that was around it. Then that's when they did the big reveal. But it was cool because the kids got to go hands-on too, which you know, what 5 and 3-year-old don't want to do that?
They were very, very excited about the play set. They were very excited about the bubbles and the chalk and all of the fun things, but they did a lineup where they sort of ran to the play set, but their eyes were as wide as saucers when they saw the play set. So I said this on the day of the build, and I think it's a perfect example of how I felt, you know, when Joshua was first diagnosed. There was such a loss of hope. There was such a loss of optimism, you know. And so something like the play set, we wouldn't want a play set if we weren't thinking about the future, if we didn't have years of play to look forward to, if I wasn't thinking about pushing my kids on those swings as they grew older, if I was thinking that their future is limited, I would never have wanted something like this. And it gives me hope and strength to actually allow myself to be optimistic for the future. And it allows me to rebuild a little bit of that part of myself that I think died when Joshua was diagnosed.